What's up, guys? Now, I am feeling really angry right now about the company Konami. Now, whoever has plays Konami games will know what's happening. And if you can hear that in the background, I've got Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake playing. Now, lately, so many people have gone on this bandwagon called Fuck Konami. And I'm on board that train now. And I'll get to the reason why. And also I'm going to start listing the reasons why. With what they've done to Mr. Kijima and how they treat employees. Now, talking of Mr. Kijima, the man who helped build Konami to the empire that they are today, game-wise, with Metal Gear, Zone of Enders and all that. This man wanted to be a movie director, but then he started working on games, and he wanted to make his games like movies, like the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Originally, Konami wanted him to create an action game. But at the time, with the console, the MSX2, which was not a very popular console outside of Japan, as I believe, Mr. Kijima didn't think an action game would work. So when he created Metal Gear, he wanted to create that stealth game. The very game which was genesis to the franchise that helped build Konami to what they are today. Now, because of the success of Metal Gear on the MSX2 and a different version on the NES, which I personally haven't played, but I've watched gameplay of it and I was like, no, I don't want to. Mr. Kijima wasn't involved in the NES version, and you can tell if you compared the NES version to the MSX2 version, you can see the major differences between those two games. Now, because of how popular the first Metal Gear game was, especially on the NES version, Konami, all on their own, without saying anything to Mr. Kijima, that they were going to make a sequel. On the NES, the game was called Metal Gear Snake's Revenge. And there's a problem with that game already. Snake's Revenge. But what's Snake got to have to take revenge for? Because in the first game he accomplished his mission. But what makes the MSX2 version of Metal Gear superior to the NES version is that hence the name of the game is called Metal Gear. And anyone who plays Metal Gear games know that there is going to be a machine called Metal Gear in that game which you have to destroy. Which you do in the original Metal Gear, which you do on the MSX2 version. It's not activated. All you have to do is dodge gun cameras, put C4 on the TX-55, which was the name of the first Metal Gear. You put the C4 on the legs of the Metal Gear to destroy it. But on the NES version, Metal Gear is nowhere to be seen. All you have to do is blow up a supercomputer. I was like, what? Konami thought that was a good game. They thought that was superior. They did. They thought that was a good idea. Well, yeah, it's called Metal Gear, but don't have the mech in it. Don't have the mech in it. Have the supercomputer instead. I saw that. It did not work for me. It did not sit right with me. I didn't play the original MSX2 version until 2006. Now, because of the success of the first game, Konami all on its own, when I said, made Snake's Revenge without the knowledge of Mr. Kijima. And Mr. Kijima met with a colleague and this colleague told him about Snake's Revenge, and understandably Mr. Kijima was livid about it. So on the train ride that day, he came up with the idea of the true sequel called Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, which was a Japan release only game. I wasn't able to play that game until 2006 either, when the re-release of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater was released, then titled Subsistence. I played that game. Oh, and I loved it. Which was made in 1990. And the earliest game I I played was Super Mario Brothers. But back then, so when I looked up Solid Snake, it had great reviews, and the original Metal Gear game was a great game. But Metal Gear 2 is just vastly superior to the original game. In art direction, in soundtrack, the stories, the boss fights, it's just amazing. Any Metal Gear fan who has not played Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, play that game. Play it. So I'm just really agitated right now. So agitated right now, sorry. And then, earlier this year, I heard that Mr. Kijima was leaving Konami. I was like, why? Why is he leaving Konami? What's going to happen with them? What's going to happen with the Phantom Pain? Is that game actually going to be finished? Or are we just going to, or us fans just going to be just going to left heartbroken from the game, you know, to tie everything together was going to cease in production. Thankfully, he stayed on with the company to continue making the game. Because what Konami decided to do was take Mr. Kojima's name off the executive list. He was no longer an executive. He and his employees became contractors to the company. Contractors. Which means they had limited access on what they could do within the company. Like emails, phone calls, stuff like that. Limited access. And it's just like, why? This man helped your company become as big as it is today. As I've already stated, he was one of those guys who helped build your company to be as big as it is today. And you treat him and his employees like shit. And not only that, inside their main building in Japan, they've got loads of CCTV cameras in the corridor. Not for protection for their employees, no, to keep an eye on their employees and what they're doing. How many times they leave the station, if they need to go to the bathroom, or if they're going to have a break. They keep an eye on their employees, on what they are doing. It's like, and so many people walk out of that company and say what a torment it was working there. And if anyone who currently is working at the company says something about them, says anything bad about the company, they get shafted. They get absolutely shafted someplace. Which made me start to really hate Konami from what they do with their employees. But now was really made me secure my place on the fuck Konami train. Last night in Los Angeles was the Game Awards. Metal Gear Solid 5 was up for 4 awards. Game of the Year, Best Action Game, Best Art Direction, Best Soundtrack. It won Best Action Game and Best Soundtrack. Witcher 3 won Game of the Year, so congratulations to you guys. You obviously deserve it. You made a good game. I personally haven't played it, but I hear so many good things, I'll give it a try. But what really, as I said, really made me just secure my place on the fuck Konami train is that Hideo Kojima was hopefully by many game fans to appear at the Game Awards because of the awards that Phantom Pain was up for. But was he there? No. And why? Because Konami sent a lawyer to him and say to Mr. Kijima, you are not allowed to be at the Game Awards. You are not allowed. I was just like, ugh, I cannot believe this company, not really. My blood is boiling right now because of what this company's done to this man and how they treat their employees. When it was announced by the presenter, by the host of the Game Awards, you hear the reaction by the audience on when he said that Konami told Kojima that he was not allowed to be at the Game Awards. You hear the audience boo Konami. And I was just like, boo's just not enough. It's fuck Konami. Fuck them. Yes, I have Phantom Pain. Yes, I have this amazing game. Even though they took Mr. Kojima's name off the cover, along with the Kojima Productions logo as well. And the Fox engine. They took all that off because he and they were parting ways. They really want to stick it to this man. They really want to stick it to him. I'm glad that the only people who were directly involved in the game were there was Kiefer Sutherland, who voiced Snake, Big Boss, and Stephanie Houston, who voiced Quiet, and who did her motion capture as well. And she sang very nicely at the Game Awards. So I was just glad that those two were there. People that those two directly involved with the game, voicing characters, doing motion facial capture. I'm glad that they were there. But the person who should have been there, the person who should have been there was Mr. Kijima. To be there to collect awards for his game, his creation. Something that Konami, all the way back in 1987, when the first game was made, was released, wanted him to do a different game altogether. And with Konami now just most likely gonna do mobile gaming, so Phantom Pain was most likely their last AAA game. I really, really hope Konami goes out of business. But after everything they've done to their employees, to Mr. Kijima, to the fans, they have fucked everybody. And for me, alongside fellow YouTubers, Alpha Omega Sin, Young Ye, Jim Sterling, all of us say, fuck Konami.